Hello, welcome, and thank you for tuning into Channel Voices, the podcast for future channel leaders, where we learn the ins and outs of partner ecosystems through casual conversations with channel professionals from a variety of industries, partner types, and geographies. My name is Maciek, and I'm your host. Samer Mihyar. Welcome to Channel Voices.
Thank you very much, Matcha. It's great to be here.
Can you please introduce yourself? Tell us little bit about your channel background, please.
Sure, Matcha. My name is Samer Mihyar. I've spent my career in channel marketing, performing things along the lines of partner enablement, incentive programs, channel growth, etc. Basically helping businesses build strong, mutually beneficial partnerships. Currently, I lead channel marketing at Kodak Alaris for EMEA and SEAC regions. I work with partners across various industries. So, you've got your government focused partners, BPOs, financial services, and so on and so forth, mainly to develop programs that don't just focus and to generate short-term sales, but rather drive long-term value. This has been quite an interest to me, where the more partners I meet, the more I become interested of what really motivates them, particularly in this highly competitive world we live in. And that curiosity, if you like, led me to write, one of my recent articles on LinkedIn, the psychology of incentives, right?
Yeah,
It sparked some great conversations online, and that's why I'm excited to be here today. To go deeper into what makes incentives work. Where companies get them wrong, and how we can make them better.
fantastic. And that's exactly it, right? It was that article that spurred my interest in getting you on the podcast. You made some very interesting points in there. I'm hoping we can unpack these in today's episode. So, when it comes to incentives, like what are the fundamental principles behind partner incentivization and the importance that it has in today's business landscape?
It's a very good question, right? Because traditionally we've been looking at incentives to achieve, sales, right? But I think at its core, any incentivization strategy is about motivating the right behavior. So again, for so long, the incentives have been about increasing sales, closing deals, etc. But the reality, or the new truth, if you like, that it's not really just about that. It's about getting partners to engage, invest in your brand, and ultimately drive customer success. You got to keep in mind, partners any vendor works with nowadays, they deal with 10 to 12 other vendors. Some of them directly compete with you, others don't. Right? So you got to make sure that you have, that enough mind share for partners to focus more with you as a brand. A common mistake that I see with that a lot of companies or vendors do is viewing incentives as purely transactional, right?
Mhm.
Short-term transactional incentives. That's along the lines of offering discounts or cash rewards without thinking about the long-term impact. So instead, the most successful programs, or at least from my experience, right? All I'm sharing here today is based on my experience in EMEA and SEAC region, right? So the successful programs follow three key principles, if you like, Matcha. First, that's alignment with business goals. Every incentive should tie back to a strategic goal. Your strategic goal can be, I want to increase sales, but I think any marketing activity, the ultimate goal is to, sell more. And I think in many occasions, we just look at that last part of the sales cycle. Whereas, you look at, building a relationship with partner, you need to consider the different steps that you have in a sales cycle, right? from enablement, prospecting, objection handling, etc. Right? All the steps within the sales cycle and how you can make sure that you incentivize to the right objective. So maybe you want more visibility into what the what partners are doing in their respective markets, right? So your objective would be to increase deal registrations, right? So incentivize based on that, or your objective could be boosting renewals or breaking into new markets. So the first principle is aligning with business goals. What are you really trying to achieve? The second is what I just touched on, which is engagement beyond sales. Incentives shouldn't really only focus on closing deals. Rewarding partners on pre-sales activities like trainings or certifications, or even marketing related activities like lead generation. These sorts of incentives, they create a stronger foundation for the partners. As you know, in B2B marketing, particularly channel oriented companies, they thrive on trust and relationships with their partners, right? And creating a strong foundation is absolutely necessary. You just think about it logically. You go to a partner and say, hey, you know what? Here's my product, sell it, I'll give you X, right? That's not going to do the cut. These are intelligent business people that, they know, how the sales cycle works, and you need to be part of that sales cycle. The third principle, if you like, is simplicity and transparency. I've seen so many programs that just go bust simply because they're quite complex, a lot of manual work, partners don't know where they are. So, if a partner can't easily understand how they earn rewards, trust me, they're not going to engage. Right? Clear program structures and easy tracking tools make a massive, massive difference. And look, those. If you look at those three principles, I've seen them. I've seen results coming from all partners. But if I look at some of the partners that I'd consider as focus partners, I worked on programs, just to reward on the sales side, right? Sometimes they worked, other times they don't. But then when I look deeper into some of the business that those partners do, and we had intelligent business conversations, I I did things differently. I started incentivizing on, as I mentioned, pre-sales trainings, post-sales renewals, marketing, and I managed to see, 20 to 30% growth year on year with those partners, something that previously they weren't able to do that. And that's simply because they see that the brand or the vendor, they're investing with them.
Yeah, especially, with that simplicity, right? If it takes a partner to have a mathematics degree to understand the calculation behind how they're being compensated, you've absolutely lost them.
Totally agree.
It needs to be very easy to understand, and especially for them to realize what is it that they need to be doing to achieve those, right?
Absolutely.
And it's, anything with compensation, if you be it direct or indirect, if it's complicated for a person to understand this, you've lost them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I got to tell you, and tracking is really important. The reason I say that because just think of it, yourself. You've got a you're participating in a competition, or maybe you're getting points on your credit card that you're looking to redeem towards a vacation with your family or whatever. If you're spending, or you're putting effort and you're not able to see your achievement live, that's a big demotivator, right?
Yeah,
So simplicity and tracking are two very, very important aspects to those fundamentals, if you like.
agreed. The article you wrote, it had the word psychology in it, right? What are some of the, from your point of view, the psychological theories maybe that underpin, that effective incentive strategy for the partner ecosystem?
Yeah, yeah. I hesitated, and I saw it twice, before I put that title. Obviously, I'm not an expert, right? But out of interest, you do a bit of reading, right? And you get to learn a thing or two from here or there. So, just a disclaimer here. I'm not the expert here in psychological theories, but from what I read, here's what I understand. There's something, one theory called is self-determination theory, right? And that's when, your partners, they're motivated by autonomy, competence, and, you know, relatedness, which means they're not just interested about money. They want to feel in control. They want to develop expertise. They want to feel valued, right? This is sort of your psychological, or your subconscious telling you why I exist, or why is this important? Why am I important? Right? And then you've got behavioral economics, which, by the way, partners react differently to, based on how your incentives are structured, or how they feel at the point of the announcement, right? So something like loss aversion. That's why people fear losing something more than they enjoy gaining it. And I was watching a documentary the other day about penalties, right?
Yeah.
Penalties in football, and numerous studies have been done on the probability of winning. And apparently, what the study shows is that prior to starting the penalties, the possibilities are 50-50, right? But if you go first, if you shoot first, right, your probability of winning increases to 60%.
Right.
And simply because you scoring that first shot, right, as a team, puts that loss aversion in the competitive team. And you take it into your daily life, right? When, as a vendor, when you put an incentive, and you put something really exciting, something that, say, everyone goes on a summer holiday, and this is your reward to achieve something. But hey, you got to achieve those sales or those numbers, or do your task, within the first 3 months of the year, right? And that limited time incentive can actually push, you know, people to act quicker, act faster, in fear of losing that opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? Another thing that also be related to behavioral economics is gamification. And it's that stuff that tells you, yeah, I'm the best, I'm the best. I can do
The
better. Uh,
competitiveness,
the
yes.
competitiveness, yeah. And people like to engage with those sorts of things, where they get more points, or they get a status, if they achieve a certain target, right? So again, I don't think I'm an expert in psychological theories, but I feel these are quite relevant points, that you can consider when you design your next incentive program.
That's great. And speaking of designing incentive programs, what would you consider the key components to consider when you're thinking about setting it up?
So when we look at the channel business, and look at partners. The very first thing to do is partner segmentation. So not all partners are the same. We got to live with that. And what motivates an enterprise, might not work for an SMB VAR, right? Um, I first learned this, I think, in my second job within the telecom, where we had a massive network of resellers, and I did a cash-based incentive for those resellers. But what I came to find is, it worked a lot with smaller resellers, those that can provide us with
Yeah.
the run rate business. But then with bigger companies, that simply didn't work. Um, they were more interested in things along the lines of, co-marketing funds or lead sharing, right? Simply because, those cash incentives on the individual level, they don't make any difference, because salespeople within the enterprise, they're paid well. They're paid much higher than with smaller resellers. So understanding that, well, segmenting your partner base, understanding the differences is the first thing to do when you design an incentive program. The second thing is, based on what we discussed earlier, that the psychology of your partners. Mix it up, right? Don't keep it purely financial. Don't keep it purely for sales, right? Make sure that you involve everyone within the sales cycle, pre-sales, marketing, post-sales, sales. As I said, cash can be great, right? But things like training, marketing, support, the recognition, right? That public recognition, the awards, that mention on your website or in your social page, that can go a long way, right? So consider both financial and non-financial rewards in a program. The third, I would say, just keep it simple. If it's too complicated, partners won't engage, right? And that we can easily fall into that trap. Sell X from product A and X from product B and Y from product Z, right? If you achieve all of them together, then you get this. If you achieve those two, then you get that, right? It's just too much, right?
Yeah.
So just keep it simple and easy to understand. And finally, just make sure that and again, we talked about that, that it's easy to track for both parties, really, for you as a vendor and for partners. For partners, that data-driven information, can help them understand where they are, what they've achieved and what they got. And from a vendor, that helps you understand if it's working or not. Who is it working with? Who's not responding or engaging, right? And that gives you great insights into what you can do in the future.
To flip it the other way, so what would be some of the common mistakes that you see companies make when designing partner incentives? Now, you mentioned already, that individual incentivization within that enterprise type partner, right? That doesn't work. What are the other things that you've seen that don't work, and maybe how can companies avoid those?
I might sound repetitive with some points, but hear me out, and I'll try to structure them differently, or maybe add layers to them. Right. One of the mistakes that I've done in the past is over reliance on rebates. Right. Rebates alone, they don't build loyalty. I mean, I was able to attract partners from competition simply by doubling rebates. Right. But as they switched for me, they're going to switch if someone else would offer more, right?
Yeah.
So it's not only about money. Rebates alone, they're not going to work, right? Another thing is ignoring the sales journey. Again, we touched on this, but programs that only reward closed deals miss opportunities to incentivize other people within the organization, the partner organization. And you want as many advocates as you can have. Right. So if you get the pre-sales team, the post-sales team, the marketing team on your side, hey, this vendor is the best to work with. We don't need to think about moving moving away from them. Right? That again, it's that mind share, right? So incentivize across the sales journey, keeping it just on sales. This is short term. Yeah, it might fix. It's like putting a patch, in on a hole, right? You actually need to fix it. That patch is going to wear off at some point. One size fits all programs. Yeah, again, it goes back to the segmentation. Different partners have different needs. A rigid program will alienate certain groups. That's guaranteed, right? And then you've got the complex and confusing structures. We tend to destroy programs before we launch them. Simply because we're trying to achieve so many things at the same time, right? Trying to make it complex, but
Yeah.
the easier to understand, the better results you'll have, because partners will be definitely engaging more.
Thank you. And even though it was a repetition of some of the points, putting up those extra layers in there, it definitely helps. When we talk about incentives, and we mentioned that earlier already, you need to be able to measure it. You need to be able to display it live to the partner so they know exactly where they stand, how they can achieve those. But on the internal side, for the vendor, what are some of the KPIs that you would really depend on to measure the success of an incentive program?
I think you've got the revenue covered, right? So but beyond revenue, and again, I think you'll have some micro KPIs depending on the objectives that you're trying to achieve, right? So something if you want to achieve more deregistration or more engagement on your this element of your portal, then obviously you need to specify KPIs to that. But from a big picture, if you approach incentives in general, then I think you've got a few KPIs that you can look at. First is partner engagement levels. Are partners actively participating? And the purpose here is to measure the effort that partners are putting. Are partners really trying their best? Because it doesn't matter if yeah, you're in sales much, and you put a lot of effort, and not all deals close, right? You've got a conversion rate, and the same thing with marketing, right? And this is something that you got to live with this truth, right? But what's important is to see that partners are actually putting the effort, and that we can measure through engagement. Are they reading your emails? Are they attending your trainings? Are they engaging in the planning sessions? Are they actively visiting the joint target list that we put together, right? And if they are, then at some point, the results will come, right? So engagement is really, really important. Another thing to keep track of is the sales funnel impact. So, yeah, that's the question. Are incentives driving early stage deal registrations or just last minute pushes? Are we able to grow our business with the partner? Are they acquiring new accounts, selling new products, right? And these are important questions to answer. Again, if you've got the effort, then you should see something on the sales funnel, whether that's right at the top, how it's moving, from company to company and product to product. You know, the cycle will, shrink or extend, right? As with solutions or software, it can be slightly longer than, hardware and peripherals. But that's something to keep an eye on. In the software world, I would say retention rates, right? That's an important KPI. You've done the sale, right? But what's going to happen next, right? You don't want just to keep focusing on bringing new accounts, So, are your incentive helping, improving renewals and maybe upsells? So, and finally, your ROI. So, you've got the effort covered. Then you've got you're seeing how it's going through the funnel. Then that's your revenue. Track that financial impact to be able to say, hey, we spent 50K on that incentive, but in return, this is what we have in the pipeline, and that's what we got in closed deals.
In terms of the, we talked a little bit about, partner segmentation, but there's new partner types coming up all the time, and partners do evolve as an answer to the market needs, right? Do you see any trends in partner incentivization over the next, don't know, year or two?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah, as a marketer, I've been playing around with AI tools a lot, and it's quite powerful stuff that you see out there, and it will only get better, right? And I think there are so many applications on the marketing side for AI. But I think AI can play a role in incentives. Imagine programs that can get more tailored by understanding that. But I'm talking on the individual level, let alone the partner level. So using AI to predict what type of incentive would motivate individuals. Gamification, I think that's an underutilized area. So I would expect, more uses of, leaderboards, tiered rewards, engagement-driven incentives, and then you get, non-traditional rewards. I was talking to a few partners a few weeks ago. One of them expressed, how thrilled he is that we are paying for his holiday, and it's great, to see that, yeah, you're a salesperson and you do a lot of hard work, dealing with cold calls, emails, continuous follow-ups, a lot of no's and maybes, and achieving targets. So there's a lot of stress, and I feel the sales community deserve a certain lifestyle, right? And to feel that we're able to contribute to that lifestyle is just great. From a vendor perspective, obviously that brings in a lot of loyalty, right? So, those types of reward, non-traditional rewards, I would call, the experiences. I think sustainability and sustainability focused incentives will have a role in the near future. Vendors are continuously pressured to be, more green, improving their supply chains, and carbon footprint. And I feel, that's going to extend to the partner level as customers are really requesting that, right? So you will see vendors incentivizing partners to be more eco-friendly, and professional development perks. Those will play a big role, right? I'm sure if you tell someone, hey, how about you improve your skill set with AI tools, right? It doesn't have to be related to your product or as a vendor, right? In terms of training and certification. No, let me help you utilize say AI tools to make your job as a salesperson easier. Things along those lines. I feel they would add a lot of value.
And Samer, you know this podcast quite well. You know that this question is coming. What's the one thing you wish you knew before you started your career in channel? And it doesn't have to be related to incentives.
Like, I wish I knew that channel success wasn't just about sales. Right? I think I undermined the role of marketing within the channel business, and I thought it's that number that we get out of partners, but really it's about relationships. And the moment I understood that, things have changed. Early on, I found the best way to drive results was, let's just throw money at the problem. But over time, I realized that, strong partnerships come from trust, alignment, mutual growth, and not just money. If we talk about incentives and how we tailor them, how we think about them, we can lock ourselves as channel professionals in a room and argue and discuss this for hours, but then we can simply solve it by picking up the phone, talking to the partner and asking that question: what really motivates you, right? What can we do to make sure that your people and your team are continuously motivated? And there you have your answer. And based on that, you're building alignment. You're getting closer to the partner, right? You're understanding them. It's your duty to convey your objectives, what you're trying to achieve, and see where it can work. So it's not really about selling. It's everything else before that happens, right? And the moment I understood that, things became much easier, much easier. I think B2B and channel marketing is still and will remain, a human business. We need to double down on that.
That's great. Samer, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your expertise with us when it comes to partner incentivization. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, Matcha. All the best.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Channel Voices. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and gained valuable insights. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Every bit helps us grow and reach more future channel leaders like you. Thanks again, and we'll catch you in the next episode.